Hello, everyone, and welcome to Q-Chan Ed with your host, Q-Chan. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Yesterday, we had a really interesting conversation and a topic about raising bilingual children, mainly with monolingual parents or with limited English ability parents. And we learned a lot. It was a lot of fun. I also rekindled some of my childhood memories, especially with my mom and the voices that she made and my accent back then. So, and today, you'll see my eyes like coming down all the time is because I typed everything on the computer, so that's why I'm doing it. I don't really know how to focus on the camera and at the same time doing it like the pros. But we're starting like this, so yeah, let's give it a start. So, welcome to the podcast again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really hoping that you're enjoying these episodes. Yesterday, I did mention, actually, I forgot to say something. So, I was saying that I'm playing with my new toys, like I'm using my iPhone 14 Pro for the camera, and then I have this like new toy over here with the mic. That it looks pretty cool. But now it came with this stuff, with this black thing over here that I don't know how to call it. I actually prefer it without it, but a lot of YouTubers said that they recommend putting it on. So I guess today I'll do that. So if you actually want to see, there's not much to see, but I'm uploading these videos on YouTube, and the channel was the same, Q-Chan Ed. That's how you can find me. At the same time, you could go to my website, which is qchaned.com. That's a QCHANED.com. And you'll be able to see these videos. Doesn't really matter if you see the videos or not, but I still upload the sound for the podcast. So, yeah. So, on today's episode, most of the podcasts are going to be about, as I mentioned, about psychology, emotional issues, bilingualism, trilingualism, multilingualism, cultural challenges, and so forth. Today, we want to tackle the issues and challenges that I'd say not only Japanese people but ESL learners face when learning English, and also at the same time provide practical solutions based on recent research data. And yeah, so let's see and let's start segment number one. Problem number one, I'd say more so than the language and more so than the grammar and the spelling and everything else, I'm definitely going to say that the number one most embarrassing problem is pronunciation. I definitely think a lot of people feel embarrassed by the way they say things. And as I was mentioning yesterday, honestly, I wasn't really thinking about my accent, pitch, pronunciation, all of that. I didn't really even care about spelling or whatever. But when you actually meet native English speakers, when you go into a community in which everyone speaks beautifully, well, you do feel a little bit embarrassed. And while, yes, I agree that everyone, even in America, has an accent from state to state, you go to the UK, it's exactly the same thing. You go to Australia, same thing. And even in Japan, you go up north, they're going to speak different dialect. You go all the way down to Okinawa, and it's definitely going to be an incredible completely different dialect. So it's basically the same for every country, but still there's kind of like a neutral thing as well going on. And definitely pronunciation is one of the most. So the first problem on our list is pronunciation. So a study by the Ministry of Education here in Japan, the Monbukakusho, found out that pronunciation is the most significant challenge for Japanese people. And I'm, again, one more time, I don't want to say just Japanese. I'm going to say practically everyone that is an ESO learner. When learning English, inaccurate pronunciation can lead to misunderstanding and communication difficulties. So definitely, I don't just want to say that it's misunderstandings and communication difficulties. It's also your confidence, your self confidence as well can get shattered if you're supposed to do like a presentation in a language that is not your first. As possibly some of you might know, one of the number one fears in the world is not the fear of death. is actually public speaking. And and we're talking even about in your first language, it is pretty scary. So just imagine trying to do so in a second language, and on top of that, you're doing it in English, and on top of that, you have to worry about your pitch, your pronunciation, your accent, and all of that. Yeah, of course, definitely is one of the biggest challenges uh, that ESL learners encounter. So, solution number one, it's really easy. It's super simple. Yesterday, on the episode on raising bilingual children, I mentioned the way that I did it, and it's taking advantage of technology, and nowadays taking advantage of YouTube and finding a role model. So I don't remember who my role model was, but I do remember that there was an actor that I really like his voice, and I wanted to sound like him, so I worked really hard. Do I sound like him now? No, of course not, because I do also have my own volume. So the solution to this problem is pretty straightforward. Practice. Definitely, you can't run away from them. There's no cheat code. There's no tips. There's no tricks. It's all about the grinding. And I said it yesterday as well. It's not only for languages, but for everything that you do. If you want to get good at something, it is all about the grinding. I forgot who was the person who said this, but like 10,000 hours. You need like 10,000 hours in order to master something. I don't think you need that much time in order to master something, but of course, the more you do something, the better you'll get at it. Even if you're not even trying to get good at it, the more that you do it, you will definitely get good. So the more you practice speaking with native English speakers, or like I mentioned yesterday, here in Japan, there's like a 1 coin eikaiwa service. Like, yeah, you might not have your teacher to being a native English speaker, but you're definitely meet native English speakers. So it might be helpful to just try. Maybe you're embarrassed to try with your native friends. So first you want to try with someone completely unknown that is most likely not going to judge you. So possibly this could be the best way to start. And it's only 1 coin. Like, what you got to lose? Yes. So additionally, listening to English audio materials, simply like we mentioned yesterday, we have Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime, songs, this podcast itself, to help train your ear to recognize the sounds of native English language. So also, I have to say, do it slow. There is no need for you to start fast. And that is definitely one of the most common mistakes when people actually give up. They want to get good incredibly fast. Just remember, take it slow. Slow. Okay, so moving on to segment 3, which would be problem number 2. And yeah, this is a big one, which is vocabulary. Vocab is all about the vocab. You don't have the vocab, of course, you're not going to be able to hold a conversation with anybody. So a survey by the English Language Teaching Association found that many Japanese people, and again, I don't want to say just Japanese, but for the sake of it, and because I live in Japan, I'm using the word Japanese, struggle with expanding their vocabulary, especially when it comes to conversational English. Even though conversational English is the easiest thing, the other difficulty, yes, is vocab. Where does that come from? Well, mainly when Japanese students are learning English at school, they do have like this book. They put like a little red sheet on top of it, so they're kind of like remembering the vocab, so they have it in Japanese and then translate it into English. So they start learning that, and then they have like a test, and they put, of course, the only thing that they have to do on the test is translating the word. So they will have like yama, and what is next to it? Mountain. Kawa, what is next to it? River. And of course, this is not the best way to increase your vocab. The best way to increase your vocab is, one more time, and plain simply, the one that we mentioned before. Watch movies, listening to music, listen to podcasts, read a book, or maybe something that I started doing is, at least for my Japanese, is I've been on a long streak of reading Japanese authors in English, and I really, really like it. However, of course, there can be many mistranslated stuff, especially because Japanese is a very old language in comparison with English. So I've been trying to challenge myself and to read the book in English. So there's like a book from Yoshimoto Banana called Kitchen. I tried reading it in Japanese first and gave up quite quickly. I read it in English. I liked it. I read it in Spanish. And I was like, whoa, there's a massive difference over here. So let me give it a try and read it in Japanese. So I did read it in Japanese. It took a while. Of course, English and Spanish were way faster. It took a while. However, I was able to actually enter the mind of the writer rather than in English or in Spanish, because I was getting into the mind of the writer but by the translator. So it was kind of like mixed. That is something. So the solution for this is something that I was saying is read, and of course watch English media. I understand that a lot of you, and including myself, when I'm watching something in Japanese, I like to have the subtitles. But what I do is I do put the subtitles, but I put them in Japanese. So that way, it's easier for me. I have found, at least for myself, that when I'm watching something in Japanese and I put the Japanese subtitles on it, it increases how much I understand from the movie or the TV show, comedy show, etc. So I really recommend for you to do the same. Instead of watching an English movie and having Japanese subtitles, which like Amazon Prime mostly has all of that, I would definitely recommend is watching a movie in English with English subtitles and work hard at least for like an hour and a half for you to understand what is happening in the movie. Okay, so let's move on to the last two segments. Number 5, and this is another big one, and possibly one of the most difficult ones aside from pronunciation, which is grammar. So the third problem is grammar. A study by the University of Tokyo found that many Japanese people, and again, I just don't want to say Japanese, but in this case, Japanese would actually be more helpful to say, because if we do compare, for example, Mexicans or Latin Americans or Spanish-speaking people or romantic language people, it's definitely easier to transfer your knowledge onto English rather than transferring your knowledge from Japanese to English. Main reason why, one of the things is the alphabet. We don't have to learn a new alphabet, whereas Japanese people do have to learn a new alphabet. Chinese people have to learn a new alphabet. Korean people have to learn a new alphabet. And at the same time, when it comes to English, my goodness, the spelling just goes crazy. I still remember like one of my kids, when she was saying, oh, I read a book, and it was a longer sentence, but she wrote something, I read a book, blah, blah, blah. And she wrote the word red as the color red. And I said to her, the spelling for this is actually R-E-A-D. And she was like, no, that spells read. I was like, yeah, I understand, but we spell it the same way for present in the past. And she was mind blown. She was like, no, I don't understand. It's a completely different word, and you're saying it differently. And I was like, yeah, it's definitely like live and live. Like, why English made everything so complicated, I don't know. But on top of it, on top of spelling, on top of vocab, on top of pronunciation, you have grammar. Grammar makes everything way more difficult. So for example, adding the singulars and plurals, something that Japanese language doesn't have, right? So this can lead to awkward and very, very, very unclear sentences. And of course, everyone that has been teaching in Japan, I don't want to say eikaiwa, but in an actual classroom, in say kindergarten, elementary school, junior high school or high school, definitely on upper grades, this kind of issues disappear, but on the lower grades, you're able to see so many of these. And then when they become adults, it's like, oh yeah, I actually went to America for 6 months. They forget to say the S, and if they try to say it, they would say like as I went to America for 6 months and stuff like that. So it is definitely very difficult, and I would say definitely difficult more so for people who don't, from the Asian part of side definitely more difficult. But it's again, I want to go back to like the first thing that we talked about, which is it's all about the grind. So solution three, it's easy again. It's about reading books. And if you're lucky, I mean, definitely you can find a grammar course, especially in Japan. There's like bunch and bunch of eikaiwas out there, especially after COVID. There's also a lot of like tutoring problem courses online that you can find. Actually, if you just go tutoring online in Japan, Zoom, you're gonna be able to find like so many different companies that are doing that now. Sadly, yes, I do not cover those courses. I do not cover adult courses. I usually go, and my main focus is mainly kids and children and babies and everything like that. So I do apologize for that. But you can definitely ask me questions, and I'll try to the best of my ability to help you out. So yes, the solution to this problem is definitely taking a grammar course or read books. And basically, what I did, like as I was mentioning on the previous episode, is that I found a role model. I would definitely find a writer, this in this case, that I really like. And the thing is, you don't have to go so deep into looking for a book writer. There's like comics. You can go on the newspapers, and there's a section over there with really short comics that you could definitely see, and then just look at the grammar and see how it works. That happened to me as well in Japanese. There was plenty of times that I was misusing the specific grammatical structures that something that really helpful in Japan is like it's pretty set. You have to say it this way. You have to use this, and after this goes this. So it's pretty set. But I would forget the second part. So I would say like the first part, but I wouldn't say correctly the second part. And many Japanese people would be like, "What are you trying to say?" And in my head, it makes sense, of course, but in their mind, they're like, "What are you trying to say?" So definitely, yeah, by studying grammar rules and practicing sentence construction, you'll definitely be able to speak more accurately and effectively. So that is it for today's podcast. I definitely want to try and do kind of like daily or every 2 days podcast, because it just takes me about 15 to 20 minutes, and I actually do really enjoy doing these. I haven't been so proactive about just opening my channel or just sharing my channel and stuff like that. I don't really mind. I'm just really enjoying doing this. It's all about the process, and yeah, I'm really happy that you're here with me. Even if it's just one listener, I'm more than happy, and I do appreciate you spending your time with me. And I do hope that you were able to sit down, like I always say, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and that you were able to learn something and enjoy this conversation. We hope, or I hope, that you found the information useful, and that you were able to learn about some ways to overcome some of the top problems that ESL learners face with English. And remember, of course, the key to improving, and I don't want to say just English, even though yes, this is mainly about languages and all that, but the key to improving anything, it's all about the grind. Let's go back to it's all about the grind. So what does that mean? It's just practicing and not giving up. Is like I mentioned before. For me, running. I started running, and the reason why I started running it was because I wanted to stop smoking. And my first run, it was hell. It was terrible. I had no idea how to run, even though it sounds so easy. Just put on a pair of shoes and run. Yeah, it sounds easy, but it's actually not that easy. There's a bunch of stuff that come with running. Learning about your muscles, learning about your bones, learning about your aerobic fitness, your anaerobic fitness, learning about how to breathe, how to move your legs, how to step, how to move your arms, how to keep your head up, your chin up, at the same time your chest. There's just so many things that you need to learn when you're running, and I gave up so many times. But now I run almost every day. I am running about 15 to 18 to 20 kilometers every day. My resting days are about, I still run, but on my resting days, I do run just like about 4 to 5 kilometers, and a lot of people are like, you're crazy. I might be crazy, but the only reason I was able to do this is, again, the key. It's all about the grind. The thing is, like, I don't get tired anymore. That's like the craziest part about running is I don't get tired. I can just keep on going and going and going. And yeah, sometimes I just feel like, okay, I got enough. And it's all about my mood as well. Like, if I don't feel like it, I would run less. There's sometimes I was watching a YouTube video on motivation. It was really interesting that you need inspiration, motivation in order to take action, and it doesn't work that way. Is In order to take action, you don't need the motivation. In order to take action, you don't need the inspiration. You need to take action, and I completely 100% agree that it's all about. It's like a loop. You take action, then you get motivated, and after you get motivated, you get inspiration, and after that inspiration, you start taking action again, and maybe you're not inspired and motivated for several days or weeks, months, years. But if you're taking action and you're doing it even though you're not feeling like it, you get results. And that happened to me with running. There were like several months that I didn't want to run, but I still put on my pair of shoes and I still went out for that run. And look at me now, like I'm great. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on and on about this, but again, you want to keep getting better at something. Do not give up, okay? It's all about the grind. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Never be afraid of making mistakes. Never be afraid of trying and you were unable to do so. Okay, so we'll see you on our next episode, hopefully tomorrow. And it might not be my video. It might just be the podcast itself. It just might be the sound itself, but I'll try as well to put on some videos on the channel. Okay, so see you next time, and thank you. Bye.